I thought family meant loyalty, but that night taught me blood doesn't always mean bonds. I'm Marie Thompson, 35, a tech finance director who fought her way up in Seattle's cutthroat startup scene. I'd just wired $75,000 to throw my younger brother Ethan the promotion party of his dreams at the Emerald View, a swanky waterfront restaurant. I expected a thank you, maybe a nod for making it happen. Instead, he treated me like I was invisible. He stood on that stage, grinning, praising some guy as his real family while I was shoved to a corner table by the kitchen. My parents joined in, smirking, calling me the help in front of 60 guests, bankers, colleagues, people who mattered to him. My cheeks burned as their laughter echoed. I'd poured my heart and savings into this night, and they erased me. But I didn't break. I smiled. Then I opened my banking app and canceled the final $50,000 payment. An hour later, the food stopped, the bar shut down, and those 60 guests left hungry. I took the mic and let the truth hit harder than their lies. Want to know how it went down? Stick around. This gets messy. Before we dive in, drop a comment below. Tell me what city you're watching from and what time it is. I want to know how far this story travels. Now let's go back to where it all began, in a cramped apartment in Tacoma, where the radiator hissed and the fridge was often empty. I was 15, Ethan was 10, and I was the one keeping us fed when our parents were too buried in their own chaos to notice. I'd scrounge change for groceries, patch Ethan's sneakers with duct tape, and tell him stories about owning a penthouse someday just to see him smile. Mom worked double shifts at a diner, and Dad bounced between construction jobs, always promising a big break that never came. They leaned on me, the older kid, to hold it together. I'd walk Ethan to school, check his homework, and lie awake wondering how to pay the electric bill. Ethan would hug me, his eyes bright, saying, "Mari, we're going to make it big together." I believed him. When Ethan got into college, I made it happen. I worked overtime at an accounting firm, skipping my own dreams of an MBA to cover his tuition. I paid rent when Mom and Dad fell behind, even when it meant eating instant noodles for weeks. Ethan was grateful then, always texting, "Sis, I'll pay you back." But things changed when he landed a hotshot job at a Seattle bank at 28. He started wearing $1,000 suits, leasing a Tesla, and talking about networking with bigwigs. His calls dropped off. His texts turned curt. I'd ask him for coffee, but he'd say he was slammed with meetings. I'd hear him at family dinners, name-dropping executives, acting like our childhood was something to hide. He'd brag about his downtown loft, his new friends, never mentioning the sister who'd carried him through. It hurt, watching him rewrite our past like I was a stain on his polished image. I told myself he was just caught up in his new life, that he'd come around. But deep down, I knew. Ethan saw me as a liability, a reminder of a life he wanted to erase. I kept supporting him, though. When he got promoted to bank manager, I offered to fund his party, not because I owed him, but because I still saw that kid who promised we'd make it together. I'd call, ask about his plans, but he'd brush me off, saying, "Mari, I've got it under control." I sent money for his new suits, hoping it'd keep us close. Each time he took it without a thank you, like it was his right. At night, I'd lie awake, wondering when my brother became a stranger. I confided in my friend, Lena, over coffee. She'd listen, shaking her head, saying, "Mari, you've done enough. Let him stand on his own." But I couldn't let go. I kept picturing Ethan at his party, raising a glass to me, saying, "This is for my sister." That hope kept me going, even as the distance grew. I didn't know then that the party would shatter everything, not just for him, but for me. The night of the party, the Emerald View glowed under Seattle's skyline. I walked in, my navy dress catching the chandelier light, ready to toast Ethan's success. The place hummed with 60 guests, bankers in tailored suits, colleagues laughing over martinis, and a spread of roasted salmon, truffle risotto, and endless champagne. I'd wired $75,000 to cover it all, from the open bar to the lavender macarons. Weeks earlier, I'd met Claire, the event manager, in her chic office. We'd finalized menus, confirmed the guest list, and triple-checked the bank transfer. I felt proud thinking Ethan would acknowledge me tonight. But when I saw him by the stage, he barely glanced my way. "Hey, good to see you," he said, his eyes sliding to the bankers behind me. It was the kind of greeting you give a stranger, not the sister who'd bankrolled your night. I swallowed the hurt, telling myself he was just nervous, schmoozing with the big shots. I mingled, nodding at his coworkers, but a knot tightened in my chest. Then, I overheard my parents, Linda and Greg, by the bar chatting with a couple dripping in diamonds. Linda laughing loudly, Greg gesturing with a glass, both oblivious to Marie nearby. Linda's voice cut through the jazz. "Oh, she's just helping with the event." Greg chimed in. "Yeah, Mari's great at the logistics stuff." They were talking about me, the one who'd emptied her savings for their drinks and plates. My breath hitched, the word helping stinging like a slap. I'd paid for every glass in their hands, and they were passing me off as some assistant. Linda's smirk was sharp, like she enjoyed twisting the knife. Greg didn't even notice me, too busy impressing Ethan's colleagues. I clenched my glass, the stem cold against my palm, but I kept my face calm. I wasn't going to let them see me crack. A guest, some guy in a flashy tie, tapped my shoulder, asking if I could check on the dessert timing. My jaw tightened, but I said, "I'm not staff, but I'll pass it along." The room felt smaller, the band's notes sharper. A server, a young woman with tired eyes, caught my gaze and gave a small nod, like she'd seen it all. That tiny gesture grounded me, a flicker of kindness in the chaos. By 8 p.m., the jazz band slowed to a moody tune. Ethan took the stage, his smile wide as he said, "I want to thank someone who's been like family to me." My heart jumped, thinking he'd finally say my name. But he gestured to a guy in a sharp suit, saying, "Mark Reynolds, the mentor who's had my back through every deal." The room clapped. Linda and Greg beamed, Linda adding, "Mark's been a rock for Ethan." Greg nodded. "Practically family." My throat tightened. I'd paid $75,000 for this night, and they were giving my role to some stranger named Mark. I glanced at my seat, tucked by the kitchen doors, plates clattering behind me. It wasn't just a bad table. It was deliberate, like I was an afterthought. I sat, my hands shaking, trying to blend into the background. Guests around me chatted about stocks and yachts, clueless that I'd funded their meal. Ethan caught my eye across the room, but he looked away, laughing with bankers. Linda and Greg didn't glance my way, too busy basking in Mark's spotlight. A woman in a glittery dress leaned over, her voice casual. "Can you check on the desserts?" My cheeks burned, but I managed. "I'm not with the restaurant, but I'll let someone know." She blinked, confused, then turned away. Linda caught the moment from across the table and laughed, loud enough for others to hear. "Oh, Marie's used to handling the small stuff." Greg chuckled, adding, "Always good at the behind-the-scenes work." Their words hit like a punch, each one twisting deeper. I'd spent weeks planning this, poured my savings into it, and now I was their joke. I looked at Ethan, hoping he'd step in, say something to stop this. But he was schmoozing with David Carter, his boss, who clapped Mark on the shoulder, saying, "You've got a real gem here, Ethan." Ethan grinned, not even glancing my way. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just forgetting me. He was erasing me. He'd built a shiny new version of himself, one where I didn't exist, where our scrappy Tacoma days were buried. Mark was his ticket to looking polished, untied to our past. I'd been there for every late-night study session, every bill I paid to keep him afloat. But now I was nothing. Mari's fingers hovering over her phone, her face hardening with resolve. Asterisk, asterisk. Narration, asterisk, asterisk. The jazz band's notes faded, like they were underwater. I wasn't going to let them bury me. I'd paid for this night. Every glass, every plate, every song. I slipped my phone from my purse, my heart racing but steady. Something was building inside me, a quiet fire. They'd made their move, but I was about to make mine. At 8:45 p.m., Claire found me, her voice low but tense. "Marie, I need you to confirm the final $50,000 payment." I nodded, opening my banking app, but something stopped me. I'd overheard a banker earlier saying, "Ethan told us his sister's just handling logistics." It echoed Linda's jab, calling me the help. I scrolled through my emails, finding the guest list Ethan sent Claire. My name was buried at the bottom. Marie, event support. Not sister, not sponsor, just a footnote. My heart pounded, betrayal burning through me. I thought of every sacrifice, every overtime shift, every skipped dream, every bill I'd paid for Ethan. And now this. My finger tapped cancel. A confirmation flashed. Payment declined. I exhaled, a strange calm washing over me. I'd done it. They'd pushed me too far, and I was taking back control. Within minutes, the Emerald View faltered. Servers stopped bringing out salmon and risotto. The bar shut down, guests waving empty glasses. A woman in a velvet dress muttered, "What's going on?" I ordered a cocktail ages ago. A man in a loud suit grumbled, "They're out of dessert already?" The jazz band played on, but the room's energy shifted, glamour giving way to irritation. I sat quietly, sipping water, watching the chaos unfold from my corner dot guests, whispering, some grabbing coats, others checking phones, annoyed. Asterisk, asterisk, narration, asterisk, asterisk. Guests started leaving, muttering about Hadi's service. A couple by the exit snapped, "This is supposed to be high-end." Ethan was still by the stage, oblivious at first, but his smile faded when a server whispered to him. Linda and Greg, surrounded by empty tables, looked confused as complaints grew louder. Claire frowned at her tablet, trying to sort out the mess. I stayed still, letting their perfect night unravel. By 9:15 p.m., the room was a mess of clattering plates and annoyed whispers. I stood, my legs steady despite the knot in my chest, and walked to the stage. I grabbed the mic, its cool metal grounding me. The crowd hushed, 60 pairs of eyes on me. I took a deep breath and said, "I need to set something straight. I paid $75,000 for this party. Every plate, every drink, every note you've heard tonight." I kept my voice steady. "I'm Marie, Ethan's sister, not some assistant. I funded this night to celebrate him. But Ethan, Linda, and Greg have spent it pretending I don't exist, calling me the help and giving my role to Mark Reynolds." I pointed at Mark, who shifted uncomfortably. "He's not family. I am. I've been there for Ethan every step, and they erased me." The room was silent, the air thick with shock. David Carter's face darkening, guests whispering, some recording on phones. Asterisk, asterisk, narration, asterisk, asterisk. David Carter's eyes narrowed at Ethan, disappointment clear. Guests murmured, some leaning forward, others filming. Linda stepped forward, snapping, "Mari, stop this nonsense." But I didn't flinch. "No, Linda, you don't get to rewrite this. You laughed while calling me the help. I paid for your drinks, your food, this night, and you lied." Her face flushed, words failing her. Greg's charm vanished, his stare cold. Ethan stuttered, "Mari, I didn't mean—" But his voice cracked. He looked at David, then the crowd, trapped. A woman in a gold dress recorded, her fingers flying across her screen. Another guest's camera flashed, capturing Ethan's panic. The moment was spreading online, unstoppable. I stood tall, the mic in my hand, letting the truth sink in. Their reactions said it all. I wasn't the help. I'd held this night together and I'd just torn it apart. By 10 p.m., the Emerald View was a ghost of its earlier glow. Guests trickled out, complaining about the dry bar and empty plates. "No more wine? Ridiculous," a man in a blazer snapped. A woman huffed, "I expected better." The jazz band stopped, leaving a heavy silence. I stood by the edge, watching the fallout, my heart still racing from the mic. David cornered Ethan by the bar, his voice sharp. "You said Mark was your key supporter. Why hide your sister? She paid for this." Ethan mumbled about a misunderstanding, but David's face stayed hard. "Honesty matters, Ethan," he said, walking away. Ethan stared at the floor, his image cracking. I caught it from across the room, a spark of satisfaction mixing with my anger. Linda marched over, heels clicking. "You're a saboteur, Marie. You ruined Ethan's night." Greg pointed. "We were celebrating him, and you made it about you." Their words stung, but I'd had enough of their lies. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, their voices fading. The Seattle night air hit me, the harbor glittering under streetlights. I felt lighter, like I'd shed their weight. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I'm sorry, Mari. I didn't mean it. I stared at the words, remembering his lies, how he'd handed my role to Mark. My thumb hovered, then deleted the message. I didn't owe him a response. Claire caught me by the entrance, her tablet dim. The contract's canceled, she said. The $50,000 invoice is Ethan's now. I nodded, the weight of my choice settling in. He'd face the bill, and the truth. A week later, my office felt like a haven. An email from Lena popped up. Murray, you did the right thing. That took courage. Her words warmed me, a reminder I wasn't alone. Word spread fast. Ethan's career tanked. David demoted him, citing trust issues. After the videos went viral, hashtags called him a fraud, clips of my speech racking up views. He was stuck with a $50,000 bill, a debt he couldn't dodge. Linda and Greg didn't escape. A local blog ran a story about the family drama at the gala, naming them as parents who dismissed their daughter's generosity. Their social circle shrank. Brunches and fundraisers stopped inviting them. I saw a photo of them at an event, standing alone, their charm failing. Mark faded too, skipping industry events, his name tied to Ethan's lie. I blocked Ethan, Linda, and Greg's numbers. Their calls stopped after a few days, and I felt free. I threw myself into work, landing a big client pitch that earned a nod from my boss. After hours, I met friends for drinks, laughing over stories that had nothing to do with family. For the first time in years, I built a life on my terms, surrounded by people who saw me. Looking back, I learned a hard truth. Family isn't just blood. It's respect. Ethan, Linda, and Greg showed me loyalty isn't guaranteed, even from those closest. Setting boundaries wasn't just about my wallet. It was about my worth. I'd given everything to people who didn't see me, but I'd never let that happen again. Thanks for watching my story. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to stand up to family? Hit that subscribe button for more stories like this, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Until then, keep setting your boundaries and know your worth. If you liked this, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next video.